Hey, I'm Aaron. I'm an adjunct faculty here at Guyett, and I teach AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner Essentials. I've worked in the cloud environment for about 4 or 5 years. I own a company, and we exclusively work on Amazon Web Services. And I also work at Encore Capital as a senior compliance analyst. So I maintain their entire IT infrastructure. So I'm super passionate about growth in IT. I think one thing that's missing is when you get that role, what do you grow into? And so things like mentors, but also identifying growth paths. Everybody can kind of segue into IT, but once you get in, there's always some sort of like either specialty or you end up at service desk. And I think CIAT does a good job of getting you focused on one of those specialized pathways, but also giving you that broad overview of all of the different IT aspects, so you can kind of choose once you get into the field. So I have an affinity for the cloud environment and software engineering. I've been a software engineer for about 5 to 7 years, and I think they both kind of apply because on any cloud environment, you have tons and tons of dev tools. And so I get to not only use the IT infrastructure, but I also get to take advantage of the dev tools that are on AWS. I really do think that one of the things that CIAT does help you find that focus. So it seems super broad when you're looking at it, and then once you get in, you're getting all these certifications, and you can finally find out what you like. When I wanted to get into the tech space, the one thing that I was missing was a mentor and kind of that guidance. And so I always wanted to give back. I became a tutor 3 or 4 years ago while I was finishing up my undergrad. And then when I got my master's degree, naturally the next step for me, I wanted to give back. And so the best way I think to give back is to share what little knowledge that I think I have and give back to the students who I get to learn from just as much. And so they get the benefit of somebody in that space who can actually tell what goes on in the IT realm. And so when we go through some of the labs in class, I'm able to relate, hey, this is what we're going to do, and this is actually what it's going to look like if you were to get a job in this space. And so we give real use cases that pertain to these roles that the students are going to be put into. CIAT's a lot different than a lot of the other schools I've worked with because they take the time, and we take the time to make sure that we have hands-on activities and get a lot of one-on-one attention. So the class sizes are a little bit smaller, which enables the instructors to work directly with students. So if a student gets hung up on a lab, we're able to spend that time to make sure that student can catch up and understands what's happening. A lot of the time, students go through the motions of just completing assignments. And here at CIAT, we actually try to make sure that that motion is not completing an assignment, but it's actually digesting, understanding, and facilitating that knowledge all in one motion. So they get that information acceptance, and then they're able to apply it immediately. One of the biggest benefits at CIAT is the fact that the terms are 5 weeks. And the 5-week term can be intimidating at first, for sure. You've got to cover, sometimes the courses say it's 6 months of content in 5 weeks. But because of the way that the courses are set up and how much one-on-one attention that you're able to receive and the tools that we give students to succeed in these certification exams, you can feel confident in 5 weeks that you can get the basis to pass that certification exam while understanding what's happening. Especially in like my course is super heavy duty. There's a lot going on in 5 weeks, and the students sometimes can feel like they get bogged down. But once they kind of see the end is in sight, because 5 weeks, the end's in sight in week 2. You're already thinking about the end of the course. And so once they see that end is in sight, you can make that plan and get through the course and actually grasp what we're going through. I think students have a huge advantage working online. You can absorb things at your own pace. It's recorded. So whether if you go to class and some days you're tired and you go to class and you might not be paying attention super great and you might be going through the motions that day, but now you have access to this recording where you can go and watch that recording, follow along if you need to on the weekend, and then you can reach out to this instructor who's happily and readily available on Teams and get the answers or the help that you might have needed in class that day. I think with the online model, we have a bigger reach, and we're able to have more instructors that are more available. And even some of the asynchronous courses, right? We do have asynchronous courses now, and I work great in the asynchronous courses. That's what I did for grad and undergrad. And I think it's a good model for some students. Obviously, other students need a lot of hands-on attention, but we're able to give that over remote classes. And in these remote classes, because they're remote, the students actually have to figure out a lot more with the support of their instructor, but they're very more hands-on. The professor or instructor can't go over and take over, right? We just give guidance now. And so they're forced might be a bad word, but they're forced to learn a little bit quicker, but they now have these small class sizes where that instructor's there supporting them. The labs are great because I teach a theory-based course here at CIAT, and theory means it's multiple choice, right? And so labs support you in reinforcing the content that you've memorized. And so it takes you out of that memorization, and now you can step through these questions on the certification exam and think back to, hey, I did that. And when you look at that question, you're not racking your brain trying to remember that acronym that you came up. You're thinking back to the exact thing that you did on AWS and applying it to that question. So it makes it a lot easier when you're taking the certification exam rather than just going through flashcards over and over again. Don't get me wrong, flashcards I think are great, but it supplements those flashcards and it reinforces that learning. I really do try to relate the content to real world. I think that's something that's missing in my educational pathway. A lot of the instructors kind of miss that, where here's the content and I never really knew how it applied. And so one of the things I always try to facilitate is, this is what you'll be doing, this is how it applies. So if you like this, you can go and look at a job description and continue to build out the skills and actually get that job.